I love my OCs, but that didn't always used to be the case. Let me explain. As a kid, and even up until a few years ago, so very much not a kid anymore, I would always draw characters, but never gave them stories or a purpose. They would all just exist as designs. But one day, for some unexplainable reason, upon listening to a song, I had a vision, and from there, Zoragon was born. All of a sudden, I had this character which I was very attached to, even though his story was still very vague in my mind. And yet, I found myself drawing him over and over and over again. Nothing of that sort has ever happened to me before. I started sharing bits of his story here and there with you all, both on YouTube and on Instagram. After a while, I made a character sheet for him as well, so that other people could also draw him. I am still very much attached to Zoragon, and his story is in constant development. But today, we're not talking about him. Or to better put it, not only about him. In 2023, a game came out. A game that would reshape the way I view my character story. That game was Baldur's Gate 3. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Baldur's Gate 3, or BG3, is a party-based RPG set in the universe of the world-famous tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. When starting the game, you are required to make a character, and that's when Lilith Darkblood was born. As I was playing the game, I obviously grew more and more attached to Lilith. But the more I played with her, the more I realized that there was something familiar about her, as if I'd always known Lilith, even before she was created. And then it struck me. You see, every time I would play an RPG, I'd always create and play a very similar character, whether I was playing Skyrim or Fallout 4 or even Cyberpunk 2077. And I don't just mean similar in their actions and ways of interacting with the world they were part of, but also their appearance. All the characters I've ever made to play video games with had a lot of things in common. Baldur's Gate 3 can end in many different ways, depending on your character's decisions. Lilia's ending is probably considered one of the worst ones of the game, even though it gave me the perfect opportunity to tie her story with all the past and future tales I'll ever create or play. Long story short, she's now capable of traveling through planes and worlds to look for creatures and artifacts that she wants to collect. Because of that ability, I now have an excuse to connect the BG3 story to all the other games I've ever played and will play where you can customize your character. But that's not enough for me. As an artist, I want her to get an original story as well, something that I would have to draw to be able to see, instead of just living it through a screen. Recently, I've been playing as the Dungeon Master for my parents' first D&D campaign. Needless to say that being a DM gave me an immense boost of inspiration when it comes to storytelling and illustrating. It is the perfect opportunity for me to develop Lilia's story more and create new and amazing characters along the way. One of the issues I always had with Lilia's character was the lack of a story for her outside of a video game. That was the main issue that would stop me from drawing scenes with her in them. But now things have changed. Lilia is now part of the Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I'm running, and despite the fact that my players have barely encountered her yet, she is sneakily scheming in the shadows. I was hesitant at first to insert her character in this campaign, but the fact that she is not the main character, but the villain that has to be defeated, has helped me immensely from an artistic point of view. In the scene that I'm depicting at the moment, you can see a brief interaction between Lilith and her ex-lover, turned into a Mind Flayer minion, Astarion. They are in an alternative version of Lilith's family manor in the Underdark, ready to start a terrible ritual that might make the world a living hell not stopped in time. Drawing such a simple scene made me connect to her character even more. I finally felt like she was more real than ever before, which is the one thing that I've always struggled with the most, and the reason why I used to dislike drawing OCs. One could indeed call this a skill issue of mine. I don't know how Lilia's story will end. That is really not up to me. At least not fully up to me. I don't know how Zoragon's story will end, but that's what makes them more real. If you always wanted to make original characters that you could connect with, listen to music, watch movies, read books, play video games, visit suggestive places. You might not realize it first, but the things that you do, that you love the most, might already be forming a figure in your brain, a concept that you can then explore and connect with by tying it up with other parts of your life. After all, Zoragon was inspired by music, and Lilith was inspired by video games. But in the end, as always, thanks for watching everyone and listening to my yapping session. Peace.